Hey Noir fans, Jason here from Speakeasy Noircast. So when Carly and I started looking for solutions for our podcast, we discovered there were way too many options available. We almost gave up looking for the right fit and came close to forking over a bunch of money for one size fits all type of solution. Then I stumbled upon Anchor FM. Not only is this amazing service free, but we can record and edit our podcast directly from Anchor FM or even on our phone when we're on the go. That alone saves us a ton of money and time. But there are several other major benefits to using Anchor FM that makes it the perfect fit for us. Anchor has a built-in solution for distributing our podcast to all the major outlets, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and just about anything else you can think of. You no longer have to submit your RSS feed to every single service in existence just to get your episode to your fans. And talking about money again, like I said, Anchor is absolutely free. And Anchor FM will even help you to make some cold hard cash right from the very beginning. Anchor FM has a unique advertising platform that doesn't require a minimum listenership. So right out the gate, you can start making some money. So let's put it in perspective. Anchor FM is free, everything you need to make a podcast in one place, instant distribution, and they'll help you make some money right from the start. So if you've been struggling to find the perfect platform for your podcast, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. After you finish this episode, of course. Now, I'm in California, and Carly is over in the UK. It's bedtime for her. It's morning for me.
Yay!
I'm Jason Morris, and I'm here with Carly Street, and we're going to discuss the 1945 film Conflict.
I don't believe in ghosts, and I don't believe in the supernatural. I don't believe that people live on in life after they've left it. But I saw Catherine today, or somebody that was like Catherine.
How do you know it wasn't Catherine? Why do you go on torturing yourself with these doubts? Sometimes a thought can be like a malignant disease and start to eat away the willpower.
I suppose you'd like me to step out of the picture. Well, I'll never do that. Never.
Love has been man's inspiration for centuries.
You came back because you wanted to be with me.
No, Dick, I don't love you.
You love me, but you haven't got the courage to face it.
But it could never be, Dick. She'd always be there between us.
Driven to desperation by the scent of an exotic perfume. Trapped by the conflict that obsesses every killer. But who would want to murder the wealthy Catherine Mason? Was it Evelyn? Was it this ex-convict? Or was it...
He's lying, I tell you. We either kidnapped her or killed her himself. He knows a lot more than he's telling.
Never has the screen presented a more daring motion picture. Powerful drama which lays bare the innermost soul of a man torn between two loves, caught in the inescapable conflict of his overpowering emotions. It's Humphrey Bogart at his best, with Alexis Smith, Sidney Greenstreet, in Conflict, a picture as great as your favorite star. Carly, why don't you give us a rundown of what Conflict's all about?
Conflict is a film starring Humphrey Bogart where he basically falls in love with his wife's sister and finds an opportunity to get rid of his wife in the hopes of living happily ever after with the sister.
Which is interesting because in this film, I thought when I'm watching it, like they didn't really go into a whole hell of a lot of backstory as to like these two people falling in love on the side or any of that kind of stuff. It was just sort of like a
straight in.
Yeah, it was really interesting because just like seems like she just turns to him at one point. She's like, I know you're in love with my sister, and she's like, what?
Yeah, it's like the first 3 minutes they're having a little argument. She's like, oh, don't think I didn't see you looking at Evelyn.
And it's some sort of like big thing that seems like it's been a rift for a while. And another thing that was interesting is that they'd only been married for like 5 years. And you could tell in this movie, maybe at that time period in history, marriage was still that sort of sacred thing. And it seemed like there was a lot of emphasis on them being married and being happily married for 5 years, which it seemed like they make it a big deal. Then they have the doctor, the therapist that discusses that at length at different times in the movie. I thought it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's like a whole segment about how, they're one of the lucky ones. And it's like there must be so many divorced or dead people.
Right.
Like a whole party to celebrate the fact they're married for 5 years. It's not an anniversary. It's that they're married for 5 years.
Right, yeah. It is, and it's interesting because I didn't think like the whole divorce sort of thing really took off until like after the 50s, going into the 60s. But that's something I definitely would have to research, and probably should have researched before we started discussing this.
I could understand if it was like 7 years, because it'd be the 7-year itch. That wasn't a thing then. Who knows?
That's a good point, though. This is the first time that I've seen this movie, and you've seen this movie a few times, right?
Yes, I love this. I'm really surprised that you've not seen it before.
So, confession: I used to hate Humphrey Bogart.
What?
I used to not be able to stand him.
You have the hat.
Yeah.
Great delight in sending me multiple pictures of the hat, various angles, within the first week.
I totally understand where you're coming from, because I would now I would feel the same way if anybody told me the same thing. But I used to not be able to stand. I thought he was a terrible actor. I thought his movies just came off really cheesy, that sort of thing. But as I got older, I really started to appreciate noir films on a different level, like being a filmmaker and studying scripts and different things like that. There's such a drastic difference in the way that they wrote back then than writing is done now. It seemed like there's a much more skill that goes into the plot of a movie in the 40s and 50s than now, as to where it seems like it's so heavy-handed in character development and dialogue, as to where back then the dialogue was heavy in a way, but it was all revolved around designing the plot in a way. And so I have a much higher appreciation for it, and I love Bogart now. And this was just one of those films, and there's several other ones that have just was on my radar to watch. But I'm glad that I did, because in some ways reminded me a lot of one of my absolute favorite films, In a Lonely Place. Yeah. And in fact, as I'm watching this, I'm like, I was hoping, I kind of hope this plays out the same. I hope this like when we get to the end, I hope this plays out a certain way. It didn't, but it was still good. It still played out in an interesting way. So yeah, I wasn't a Bogart fan, but I am now, and so I'm glad that you brought this movie up and that we're discussing it now, because I thought it was fantastic.
I'm glad you've made that confession, because if this had come up when we were drunk at an awards ceremony somewhere, we'd be in the Inquirer. I'm just throwing that out there now. That's shocking. But I'm glad that you've confessed it.
So take us into this movie, Carla. Let's start from the beginning. Let's sort of pick it apart here. Let's take a look at it in depth and see where we go.
Well, I have to be careful, because I love this movie so much. I just go off on a tangent.
That's great, though. I mean, that's the way to love movies.
I know. I've been going on about, when I was 5 and I first watched it, my mum explained what this was, because that's pretty much how it is. It's like, I think it's one of the first films that I ever properly sat and paid attention to.
Interesting. And you were 5?
Probably around then. I don't know.
Wow.
I'm so old, they all blur into one now. I was small.
No, that's great, because I started my son watching, stuff like this when he was about that age too.
I loved it, because this is that film that my mum's never known what it's called. Mm-hmm. But it's one of her absolute favourite films. The only way she could ever describe it to me was, it's that film with Humphrey Bogart and he kills his wife and it's the flower. Well, that's really helpful. So I put that in a Google search, Mum. And it took me years to realise that was the film she was on about, because I thought she was on about Dark Passage for years. Yeah, I got really confused. And it was this one. And I was like, it all makes sense now. I've actually explained it a little bit more. Right. Because that's what I love about it the most, is it all boils down to just like one simple, insignificant thing that you see. I think, is it like the first 10 minutes? 20 minutes when he gives her that flower? I can't remember. It's quite
it's fairly early on. It's like it's probably definitely in the first 25 minutes or so of the movie, because that was something when I'm watching it, it didn't register to me. I actually thought it was a pretty nice little scene, but then like when it came up later on, I was totally like, wait, what? Oh my God, the flower. Oh yeah, okay, that makes total sense. And I did not get it, and that's what the beauty of like the writing. I think they tried much harder plot wise of making things work, and you know what I mean. In today's world, that would have been like some simple foreshadowing thing that would be blatantly obvious, but in this film, it happened so early on, like you completely forget about it.
Yeah, and it's just such a nice shot that you're just saying, "Oh, that's nice," right. Like you said, but that's it. You don't think anything else of it.
Yep.
And that's good filmmaking. You should do that.
It absolutely is.
And I just love key scenes about it, like when he's in the wheelchair and then he just gets up and just starts wandering around. It's just stuff like that I just think, that's brilliant. You don't get that now as much.
Very true.
See, I'm rambling. Told you.
Well, okay, so let's go from the beginning. So we open this movie with a letter. Somebody's writing them a letter to invite them over to their house for a party. We don't necessarily know, who this person is, but we know that it sets it up pretty well. It sets up our main characters, Catherine and Richard. They're going to go celebrate their 5th anniversary at this guy's home. And, then we move into a scene where there's some tension between husband and wife. They seem like, in my view, like they've been married for quite a while.
Yeah.
They're not terribly young, particularly the wife. I believe she appears to be slightly older maybe than Bogart, but they're not youngsters. But you do feel a bit of tension between them, but also it feels like they've been together for a significant amount of time. And I would think that in my personal view, being married, it feels like it's much longer than 5 years.
Yeah, that's like 10 years of 20 years of bickering.
Yeah. So
where it just becomes so short, and it's just such a rapid back and two. There's not even a hesitation. It's kind of like they know what they're saying is going to annoy the other person. It's just it's like a game of tennis. It's like poof, 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 poof.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously she's trying to get under his skin, and it just does this back and forth, and he's just like, I don't want to fight. This is ridiculous kind of thing. But I mean, they set it up pretty well by telling us, in this letter that it's their anniversary, and then showing us the bickering couple. I don't think that they set it up where there's hatred per se enough to like kill somebody, but I think it kind of the idea grows on you.
It's almost like boredom.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, particularly on her part, it's almost like I'm the only thing that she can really do that gives her entertainment is winding him up.
Yeah. And to answer your question earlier, the rose comes in at the 5-minute mark. I mean, it's like super early on.
Yeah. Because actually the opening scene, they do it so well, it's really not long. No,
it's very subtle. It's very, I mean, the shot itself is actually great. It's just it's this amazing dolly in shot into a frame within a frame, sort of like, for the film school people. But just the subtlety of the rose, the single rose in the window, and him giving it to her and it coming up like, 60 minutes later, I think is pretty impressive.
Brilliant. I love how it pulls you into the party as well, because if I'm remembering it rightly, you it leads you, like, sort of invites you through the window into this party that you feel like you're not privy to, and then you're suddenly there, and it's almost like everybody's telling them how happy they should be, and they're both just, him in particular is just kind of, only joy is when Evelyn happens to go near him or touch his hand, and he's mesmerized.
Yeah, she definitely has a smile on her face talking with Mark, the doctor, or professor, whatever, and you could see him walking behind him, and he's just less enthused about it. So yeah, I mean, we go through this little party thing there's other guests here that we, don't really see much of later on, but it really sets up their sort of cynicism for each other in a sort of undertone way, because they're saving face for everybody that's in the room.
Disdain might be a good word.
Sure, yeah. And again, I just think that they don't show heavy disdain, and I think that's probably because they're in a room with people. But you get the idea because of undertones, and I think anybody that has been married or in a relationship that they're not necessarily happy with probably picks up on it more than the others that aren't. And I think there's a lot of talk in here about, that, not necessarily that sort of thing, but like the sort of juxtaposition of, marriage and non-married people. Because he talks a lot about science and other things like that.
Yeah.
About it, but I just thought it was very interesting that they're acting as normal as they can. It's a very relatable sort of scenario, even as old as this film is. I mean, I'm sure that doesn't change over time.
Yeah, definitely. And then I kind of like the fact that she suggests that she's going to sort of send a sister away while he's there. Instead of it being a private conversation, she's like, by the way, so you can hear, I think Mum's feeling lonely. You're going back and looking after her. Yeah,
I think it just aids to that sort of first scene that we see of them sort of trying to get under each other's skin. Yeah. They just really continue that, and it almost like she has saved it up for that point of being in front of everybody else, because he can't really say anything about it. What's it going to do? I mean, the sister's right there. She's just like, oh yeah, I have to go back. It's not a big deal, and he can't do anything about it, which I guess would be the point of maybe where the disdain really, elevates, I guess, to where he's just like, you know what, this is over.
Yeah, you're taking away my last little bit of joy.
Right. And then we go into the car scene where they're talking about possibly her marrying the other, what is he, a professor or something like that?
It's like a psychologist in training, I think, because he works with the guy who ends up catching him.
Right. Yeah, I think that he's sort of like a protege sort of thing.
Yeah.
I thought the car wreck thing was interesting and odd. I think maybe they were trying to make you feel a little sympathetic for Humphrey Bogart's character, and then also sort of set up a plot point that it's going to be much harder for him to try to kill somebody. And then later on it adds to sort of his alibi, so to speak, because he starts faking not being able to walk on it as well as he can. So there's like a few different levels, I think, with that car wreck. I mean, they could have done that 100 different ways, but they chose to use a car wreck, which is interesting to me because it also kind of shadows the way that he kills her.
Yeah, I never thought about that before, actually. I just kind of took that as a necessary plot point. But now you mentioned that is quite interesting that's the way that, of all the ways he chooses to get rid of her, it's in a car.
Right. And sort
Maybe
of...
that's the moment that his mind sort of snapped.
It could be, because, I mean, if you think about it, they sort of gloss over it and move on pretty quickly in the film. But if you think about getting into a car wreck, laid up in the hospital for a while, having a broken leg, you have a lot of time to think.
Yeah.
And that could be, maybe where I don't want to say a remake of this movie, but if there would be a remake movie, that would definitely be an area I think that they could expand on to sort of build on his desire for the sister, his hatred for his current wife, and how he's going to solve his problem. A little bit of his delve into madness there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it does leap forward pretty quickly. This movie does not really slow down to take its time showing the thought process. It's just like, it almost seems like he's already made the decision this is going to happen, and we're just waiting for it to happen.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So, hey, Carly, let's take a break real quick and talk to our listeners about our sponsors. All right, guys, we're back, and we're going to keep talking about this film. I think that as we go along, and we see, I don't know how things took place back then. This is 1945, but I don't think that I would ever let my wife leave and I would meet her there, kind of thing, going on a trip. Like, it would have to be like a big deal, and it's very nonchalant in this movie. It's just like, yeah, I got to do a couple things. I'll meet you up there.
Yeah. With a bit of luck, you'll drive off a cliff, but hey, if you're there when I get there, then I'll see you.
Right. And you know what? I take it back. The rose scene is actually 18 minutes into the movie. The first rose scene isn't the one that she's wearing.
No, there's two. There's one where he casually gives her the rose at the party, and then there's one where he actually pins it. I think he pins it on a coat or pins it on a jacket.
Yeah.
And then that's the one she has when she goes on a little fateful driving experience.
Again, it's still subtle. It's still at that point where it's like, I never caught it, and I'm glad I didn't, because, you want to sort of experience the movie other than try to pick it apart.
I wonder if they ever had a moment where they went, have we overdone this rose thing? Are we giving it away too soon?
I don't think so, because I think it's pretty subtle. That's something we would do.
Quite possibly, yeah. We'd end up with no rose, and it wouldn't make sense at the end.
Right.
How did they figure it out? Oh, we cut that out.
Definitely. What do you think about the actual murder itself? Because we're getting into it pretty close. So, around 20 minutes or so into the movie, she meets her demise.
Oh, the scene when he emerges from the shadows. I think that is hands down one of the best scenes ever.
Nice. Okay.
In my humble opinion. I do, and it's the one scene that would stick with me if I was trying to, because I'm not very good at describing things, as you know. If I was trying to describe why somebody should watch this film, it would just be, you've just got to watch it for that scene. If you've got anything about you visually, you've got to watch that, because that's terrifying.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty well set up. I can appreciate she's driving up to the mountains, the fog rolls in, and they definitely, tonality-wise, it shifts dramatically, and you kind of know something wrong is going to happen. I was a little surprised that it was her husband, though. I figured that there was going to be something additional going on here. So I was a little surprised that it was him at first. I'm sure some people won't feel that way, but once he steps out of the shadows, I was like, oh, okay, that's what we're doing here.
I think because that's when it kind of, if you don't really know what it's about and you just happen to be watching it, you're like, wow, okay, so he is going to kill her, and he is the murderer, and he's not dead yet. Then it completely switches. Instead of who killed her, it becomes, are they going to catch him?
Right.
And that's what I like about it.
I did get a little confused right before this scene, though, where we see the street signs. I didn't quite grasp the significance of it. And I believe there was some plot point about him driving up the mountain from the other side or taking a different route, and that's how he beat her there.
Yeah, but she was supposed to have taken the sort of dodgier way, more dangerous way of the two.
And that's what she ended up taking. Like, she did take that way, right?
Don't I have a conversation about how she's not a strong driver or something like that, and she shouldn't have really been...
Yeah, I believe...
that way?
Yeah, I think that had something to do with when he's speaking to the cops later on. I don't know. I didn't understand quite why she went that way, if it was on purpose or if, is there a cut scene or something that he tells her to go that way? And I love the crash and all the tree trunks like falling on top of the car and the significance of seeing that happen later on in his office or wherever it is that he's at sort of like reminds him of it.
Yeah, I just think it's great. I think it's a really, really great scene. But I'm a bit twisted, so I imagine if I was going to kill my husband, I'd like to be dressed as Humphrey Bogart with a cane. Just like, I can walk after all. And then, and then just stand there and sort of watch tree trunks fall on the car and be like, maybe I should get help. As long as my husband doesn't listen to it, it's fine.
Look out, street. I felt like it was interesting because we get into, the middle of the story here, and it seems almost like even though he plotted all this so he could be with the sister, it still wasn't really happening.
I like the idea, though, because it plays into like thoughts and thought processes. And I think the whole idea of it is that he became obsessed with this idea of getting rid of his wife, and then he'd be able to just go off into the sunset with his sister, and didn't even think for a second that maybe it was all in his head and she didn't really like him that much in that way. And then, the thoughts of like his wife being the way she is because maybe she's jealous. And that's kind of what I like about it. He's got wrapped up in his own little spiral of, if I just get her out of the way, everything will be perfect.
You're probably spot on with that. It was more sort of like an idea in his head than reality, because obviously these two hadn't talked about this before. It seems very obvious that nothing has happened between them.
No, she's not even aware, is she, really, that he has feelings for her until he tells her, and she's like, oh no, I don't really like you like that.
Yeah, it seemed like it was very much sort of maybe an unspoken thing. Maybe they, she might have found him attractive maybe, but never like in that way maybe because of his sister that he's married to. Who knows what the reason was, but it definitely seemed like it was sort of like it could be mutual, but under different circumstances, and it's being forced at some point. Then we get into like a little bit of the cops, letting him know what's happened, and we see this vagrant that's got this ring. It makes me wonder, was this all a setup from the beginning from the police? Like, did they know it was him from the very beginning? Was the vagrant guy, was he a setup? Was everything a setup, like, from the very beginning?
Yeah, it's quite interesting when you start thinking about it like that, because obviously her friend knows straight away if you go back and rewatch it, you can almost see his reaction where he knows. You can see it in his face. On a first watch, you wouldn't pick it up, but when you go back and watch it, you can see in his face it changes. He knows that he's done it. But then you wonder, well, how much convincing did it take for the police to go, okay, well, we'll just settle this whole thing? Or was he maybe pulling some strings on his own to nudge it along? Or was the guilt actually getting to him and he did start to imagine things and then they capitalized on that?
See, I personally think it's the our friend Mark here, therapist, professor, psychologist, whatever he is from the very beginning, he knows that Richard's killed his wife, and he is aiming to, torment this guy into telling the truth or making a mistake. I think the vagrant's fake. We see the key that gets left behind, the ring. They're walking in the woods on their little fishing trip, and he sees the pile of woods. They're all three walking past, and they see the pile of woods there. I mean, it's pretty obvious that this doctor is trying to push him over the edge and get him to make a mistake. Like, he knows that this is something happening, and I feel like it's set up in such a great way that he still plays such a good friend to Bogart's character that we don't suspect it. We don't suspect that he's trying to avenge his friend's death, basically.
Yeah. But then when you watch it again and you re-see, like where they're sat and they're having that conversation about guilt,
yeah,
and he's clearly playing into his fears and he's pushing him. Yeah, it's so interesting to watch again, knowing you're like, you sinister little doctor. That's brilliant.
Things that he says are things that you would expect him to say, but just his mannerisms and the way that he looks at Bogart, and it just feels he knows something, kind of thing.
Yeah. Which is interesting because it's like, I really enjoy detective, where the detective's, obsessed and they've got to get the murderer. They've got to get him at all costs. And it's quite interesting that this isn't a police officer that's chasing him.
Right. And I wonder if even the sister might have been, in on it, I guess, to a certain extent.
That's the only thing that I've never really managed to have a definite opinion on in my mind.
Right.
Is when she knew, or how she knew.
Well, I'd assume it probably would have been the psychologist that told her. I don't know that she would have stuck around. She was interested in another guy. Their mother is still sick. I mean, there's a lot of factors going on in there that I don't know that she would have still stuck around. I mean, there would be nothing left for her, at that moment.
And it becomes interesting because was there a romantic connection before then that he's acting upon? And then she's obviously found out what he's done, and that's why she's pulling back and going, no, it's never, it's not like that. I don't feel that way. So then that adds another level. Like, did she like him?
Yeah,
and now she's just kind of repulsed.
I don't think there was anything between them. I think that nothing happened between them and it was all in his head, but I feel like he had enough game where he could get her interested. You know what I mean? But I think ultimately it only really happened, I think somewhere behind the scenes, the doctor has, talked her into playing into his hand so they could try to catch him. And I think they did a wonderful job doing it. I think it was, I think it gets to that point where like, man, do they really suspect him? Do they not? I think he's feeling it too. And he's seeing all this weird stuff going on, but I think he's pretty definite that she's dead and somebody's messing with him. And I find it interesting that he doesn't suspect his friends. Like, who could it be? Just the cops? Because it seems like he might have started doing his own little stakeouts, but he didn't do that if something this crazy was happening, But I guess that helps push him to the end of the movie when he goes back to the scene of the crime, sort of thing.
Yeah, which is the one thing that you never do, supposedly.
Right.
If you want to be a successful murderer.
And I can't remember what drives him really to goes back to the scene of the crime. What is he looking for? To see her dead body?
Yeah, I believe.
Because nobody's found her body yet?
Yeah, because he follows it. He starts seeing her, doesn't he? He starts actually seeing, the back of somebody.
Right.
Dressed all in her clothes and just walking like her with her mannerisms. And I'm pretty sure he follows her and ends up in an apartment, and then there's nobody there.
Right.
So it's almost like he's chased a spectre, like a ghost. So maybe that's the point when he thinks like, I am losing my mind here. I need to know for my peace of mind, is she dead? And that's why he goes to see a body, because they've been keeping up the appearance of, we haven't found a body. She's just missing. And
I think that when he visits the apartment, and I mean, we know by the end of this movie that the woman at the apartment complex had to somewhat been in on it. Mm-hmm. And that goes back to my earlier comment where it's like, I wonder how much of it, at what point was it a setup, Did it start from the very beginning with the vagrant? I mean, like, at what point did this doctor know that this guy killed his wife? I think it's so interesting.
Yeah.
Because he's got some, strong follow through. This guy is like, he's dogged. He's not giving up on this.
He's got some pull as well. He's getting people to wander around in dead people's clothes.
Oh, definitely.
Into random apartments. Well,
I mean, he's one of those pillar of society kind of guys. He's got the cops, at his ear.
That? Can you imagine that? If I phoned you up and went, listen, right, I'm going to ask something weird, but you're just going to have to trust me. I need you to put a frock on, walk into a room, and then hide in a closet. Some guy's going to follow you with a limp. But it's all right.
Right.
I mean, at what point do you say, why? I think someone might have killed somebody, but it's just a theory.
Yeah, money does a lot, though.
But the guy that's following me, is that the guy you think's killed somebody because I'm going to need some date money here, look?
Don't tell him that much. Don't tell her that much.
It's like, what point does that become strange? Testing the boundaries of friendship. I've watched this film too many times.
It's great though, and when we get to the end here, and he goes back to see the crime, I truly feel like I almost wanted either him to not have actually been the killer. Like I wanted it to like cut back and then like see something else happened that we didn't see in full.
Like you let her go and she died anyway or something.
Something like we didn't see the full account originally. Yeah. Like for some reason, I still wanted Bogart to be the good guy. I don't know why. And maybe it's just him and his charismatic or whatever it might be. But there's just something about it.
In prison, I don't like the thought of him in prison.
Well, I mean, he killed his wife, so yeah. But either was her body there? What is it? Her ghost? There's something more for whatever reason. I thought it was going to be, but I was surprised. I mean, the ending kept me surprised right to that very end when they showed up. I really wasn't expecting the cops to be there and the doctor to be there. It almost felt like the movie ended abruptly, like there's another 20 minutes or something left of it. But that was a good thing. That definitely wasn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
And it just tells me, okay, so they found, it had to have been set up from the very beginning because they didn't move the car. Obviously, they had the body, so all of it had to have been set up from the very beginning. It just had to be.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's brilliant. It's brilliant storytelling. And it, like I said, it reminds me a lot of In a Lonely Place. I mean, they have the same sort of dynamics between the cops and the love interest and a murder that may or may not have been, by their lead character. And, where are these people at the end of the story once we figure out who the murderer is, sort of thing. And it felt very reminiscent of that. So it leads me to believe that Bogart, I think that some of his best movies have that, I guess I would say anti-hero. This isn't really an anti-hero movie, but, it could be had a different ending, and it would have felt. I think the movie would have worked just as well, and that's the brilliance of it.
Yeah, there was so many ways it could have gone. It could have been a ghost, and that would have been fantastic. I love when he plays like these meaty, twisted, sort of dark characters. I really do.
Yeah. I agree.
Really, that would be my preference for him. And the women are interesting as well. It's not like the female characters aren't interesting. His wife's really strong.
No,
strong personality. In the first 2 minutes, you're like, whoa, she's not to be trifled with.
Right.
She's got a character. She knows what she's doing. She's not taking any nonsense off him. Yeah, you like my sister, and I'm not standing for it.
Yeah.
And that's another thing.
His character, like the character of Richard, would not have worked at all if those female characters were not as strong as they are. Even the sister, she plays a typical role, but if you think back to the idea of she's in on the setup, that takes some constitution. That takes a lot of effort to put yourself in that situation of being in the arms of a murderer and knowing it. So without those strong female characters, his character just falls apart. He plays it well, but it's all based on that supporting cast. Definitely. There we have it. I think we have an amazing winner of a film here that I think people should see if anybody is a film noir fan.
Everybody should see it.
Or a Humphrey Bogart fan, or just a fan of great screenwriting. It's a well-made film that has a lot of subtext from a lot of different angles, a lot of different characters.
There's always something new when you watch it. It doesn't matter how many times you've watched it. Once you've watched it once, there's always something new that you see.
Right. So there we go. We have discussed Conflict, the 1945 film. Yes.
Yeah. And we found out the title of it for my mum. It's only been bothering her for 20 years.
Right. So I guess for next time, we got to come up with another film to talk about and bore people to death with, and hopefully get them to watch it as well, right?
I think it should be another Humphrey Bogart film.
Just go on a Humphrey Bogart streak?
Yeah. Let's just do a Humphrey Bogart.
Well, eventually we'll run out of Bogart films, though. So I think Carly needs to expand her horizon.
No, we'll just start back at the beginning.
Start back at the beginning of Bogart. Yeah, we'll just do an endless loop of Bogart films. All right. Well, definitely we're going to have to get into some Edward Robinson movies. He's fantastic as well.
What's the next one going to be? You get to pick the next one.
It's too easy to go with the classics like Double Indemnity or, Sunset. Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe we'll just surprise people. Maybe we won't tell people what the movie is till it comes out. Who knows? Who knows what we'll do?
because we'll figure it out 10 minutes before.
Just like we are. All right, Carly. I think that's it for this week.
Bye.
Be sure to tune in next week for our next episode. Until then,
He's looking at you, kid.
thanks for joining us this week on the Speakeasy Noircast. Make sure to visit our website, resurrectionfilms.net, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or any of your favorite podcast apps, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you like the show, you might want to check out our book, The Dark Side of Acting Up, available now on Amazon, or you can check out one of our films available on Amazon Prime. Like what you've heard so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you.